A concept I wish someone explained to me when I was a little bit younger is compound interest. Now, for those of you watching this video and initially don't know who I am or what this channel is all about, I'm just going to quickly explain that. So what I do in this channel is I test out different methods of making money online. On YouTube, you'll normally have a lot of people who will say these 3 websites will make you a fortune, but then they don't actually show you the process of how the website works, what you need to do, and then they also don't show you proof of that working. You'll see multiple people who'll say, for example, watch YouTube videos and get paid £3 an hour, or do something similar to that for a lot higher money, and then they don't actually showcase you them doing it, and they don't do it themselves. So the whole purpose of this channel is I like to go through them different YouTube channels and then videos and test them things out myself. Now, I haven't been as successful at that recently as universities took over my life a little bit, but in the coming months, we've got some huge plans for potential ways to make money. So if it sounds like something you're going to enjoy, please do be sure to hit the subscribe button. And even at the end of this video, I'm going to have just a few quick methods on how you can make a couple £100 a month that will hopefully allow you to take advantage of the information I'm about to tell you on compound interest. But please do be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you've got any sort of recommendations of videos that you've saw before where they promise to make you hundreds or thousands a month and you don't want to try it out yourself, you want someone else to look into it first, just let me know down in the comments and I'll be sure to give it a go. So compound interest then. This is such a simple thing to understand, but yet still quite a lot of people don't know about it. People still these days, if you ask them, I'm going to put in £100 a month into my bank account or into an investment account that is going to get a 10% return over the next 10 years, how much will I end up with? And someone will say, well, you'll just end up with 10% more. But that is not how it works. And we're going to be using this website here behind me, this compound interest calculator. I'll put a link of this down in the description if you wanted to go have a mess around with it yourself and see how much compound interest you can get. But we're going to be using this to highlight just how drastic compound interest can be and how much it can get you. So what I'm going to start off with here is just by telling you about how much interest we're going to be expecting. Now, if we look over here on this website, you can see they say that the average stock market return is about 10% per year for nearly the last century. We've then got this website over here which says that over the last year it's been down 4.4%, but when you actually look over the last 10-year period again, 14.8% return annually. 30 years it's 9.9%, 50 years it's 9.4%, and that's including multiple market crashes, pandemics, everything along that nature. Over a longer period of time, there just seem to be a general consensus that it's around that 10% mark that you'll get returned, and this is considering the S&P 500. Now, I'm not saying that's the one you should go for, I'm not saying that's where you should invest all your money. Definitely give it more thought and consideration and look around, especially if you're going to do this long term. But in general, the majority of these have said that over the last 10 years or over the last long period of time, you do seem to get that 10% return on investment yearly as well. It does seem to average out. So just to be 100% safe that I'm not misleading anyone here, I'm actually going to put in 8.5% of an interest rate. So that is below what should be getting, below what's expected. So hopefully it won't be too bad. Now, just before we get any further into this, this is not financial advice. I'm just explaining the concept of compound interest. If you want to follow this strategy or what I show you compound interest can do, please be sure to look up in a lot more detail what your options are and where you can invest your money. But let's say you're going in for that compound interest of 8.5% yearly and you have an initial budget at the moment of £500 to invest. Now, that isn't too bad of an amount to start with. If you don't have that much and you've never done matched betting, or you don't have a user testing account, or you've never tried Appen or anything of that nature, be sure to go give them all a go. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about them in a little bit at the end of this video to teach you how you can get a couple £100 a month. That will hopefully allow you to do this. So I'm going to show you, after we've gone through this concept, 3 or 4 little methods you can do that won't take too much time, but will allow you to basically do this compound interest calculator and generate compound interest absolutely for free for the rest of your life. So what we're going to say is starting off with £500. Now for me personally, I'm going to do this calculator as if it's me. And I am at the moment 23 years old. I'd ideally want to be investing monthly until I'm maybe 35, before I then want to start keeping a lot of my own money and start to just live as much as I can. So 35 years old will be in 12 years time. So I'm going to put in 12 years there. And I'm going to quite comfortably say here that from when I'm working full time and doing all the little part-time things I do at the moment online, I'm going to be able to put in between £200 and £300 a month. So I'm just going to go for in the middle of that, go £250 a month at the beginning of each month, and I'm going to do an annual inflation rate of 2% just to keep that up. So if we just give that a calculator there, you can see that by the time we get to me being 35, there should be around £70,000 in that savings account. Now, the reason this becomes interesting is because when people look at compound interest, they look in the short run. And if you look here, your first year, you're going to have deposited £3,500. And you're going to have made £180 through interest, on average. People look at that and think that's not worth it. That £3,500 is a lot more beneficial to me. I could do a lot more with that. It's just not worth it for the £180. And I can completely see where that's coming from. If you're someone who is going to value the short term that much, then please, by all means, prioritise what you need to. But the thing with compound interest is when you eventually keep going. So you can see the second year, despite only investing £60 more, the interest is nearly tripled. You then look at the third year where you've invested maybe an extra £60 on top of that, but the interest again has doubled, and so on. And it just keeps going and keeps going. And you can see by the time you get into that 12th year, you're generating £5,200 of interest each year because of that compound interest knock-on effect. And if we look at it at a graph, you can see that a bit better over here. So the deposits are in green, so you can see our deposits stay roughly the same. They go up a tiny bit, 2% each year based on inflation, but the amount of interest we get massively goes up. Now you might be wondering why I only did it for 12 years. And that is because at the end of this 12 years, we should have around about 70,000. Let's say you want to treat yourself at the end of 12 years and take out 10,000, go on an incredible holiday, and then you're left with that £60,000. So you can go back here, put in that £60,000. So at this point, I'd be 35. Let's say I want to take this now till when I'm 50. So that will be 15 years instead of 12. But this time around, I don't want to be putting in anything monthly. I don't want to put in a single penny. I just want to leave that 60,000 in there for the next 15 years, play around with the 10 grand that I've got at the moment, and then just leave it and not have to worry about monthly payments or anything like that. So let's see what happens at this point. And that's where it gets interesting, because you can see from that initial amount we put in the previous section, that is still the same amount of money. This is with no extra deposits in at all, and you can see just what happens. So by the end of them 15 years, you're generating £15,980 worth of interest, or in total, the balance will be sat at 203,000, and that's from not putting in any extra. Now, of course, this may not be accurate. It may end up having a stock market crash just at the wrong time. Anything can happen, but if you're going off previous sets of data, this is where you could be sat. Now, if you're someone who did just want to keep investing as you go, we'll go back and put back in that £250 a month, and then you can see that makes a big difference. Or maybe you didn't want to take out that 10,000 and you were happy to leave in the 70,000. Then again, you can see another huge amount of difference. Now, you can see just here from this graph at the bottom, this is when it gets interesting, because you can see just how much that interest becomes, especially in the final year. And in the final year out of the 15 here, you can actually see that you're getting more interest than you are putting in deposits. So even with the 70,000 deposit, the 3,000 extra deposit that you'd be putting in that year, even with them, you're getting more from interest that year than everything else combined. So that shows just how big compound interest can become long term. Now, the reason I wish someone told me about this when I was younger is because I have been working since I was about 17. And if you're someone who's watching this who is just 18 years old and you don't even have any money to put in as an initial balance, but you're making say £150 a month that you can put aside, and you're 18 years old, you can go for the next 12 years, so until you hit 30, and have saved up £40,000. Now, I know none of this value here seems like it's a huge amount of money, and it may not seem like it's worthwhile to you at all. You may look at something like this and say, this £16,000 over the next 12 years is going to be more beneficial than what £40,000 will be when I'm 30. And I can completely understand if you're someone who thinks like that. If you'd rather use the money in the short term, by all means, go for it and use it. But I think it's just vital here to highlight how drastic compound interest can be. If you're someone who's got a little bit more money but a little bit less time, for example, let's say you've got £2,000 you're willing to put in at the moment, and you're wanting to do this for the next 5 years and really stretch how much you can deposit monthly for the next 5 years just to see where it can get you, and you're wanting to put in £500, you can just see here, this really highlights compound interest, because you can see you'll have deposited £8,000 over the next 5 years, but you'll have gained £41,000. So that's a total interest of £8,300. Now, if you could stretch that out to 10 years time, maybe, you'd be looking at a lot of a larger return here. You're looking at over 100,000. So if you can stretch somehow £500 a month for the next 10 years, it might be unrealistic depending on your income. But if you can do that, you'll be looking at £100,000, which at that point, it is safe to say that you could just put that £100,000 and leave it in there. And you'll see that as you leave that £100,000 in, within 5 years, you're looking at £11,000 worth of interest. Within the 10 years, you're looking at possibly a salary there just to live off. And you can see there, if you invested that £500 for 10 years, took out that 100,000 and just left it there and didn't deposit any extra, you can see after leaving that in there for a few years, you could be looking at a salary through interest. Now, the one thing to take out with this video is that compound interest is definitely a long-term solution. It's not something that's going to make you rich this time next week, this time next year even, this time maybe in 10 years. It is something that, as you can see from that graph, that is massively long-term. There is no two ways about it. The earlier you start with this, the better your return is going to be in the future. But still, it's not going to be something you look forward to in 5 years' time even. It is something really drastically long-term. And that is what you need to be prepared for if you're going in with compound interest. It can't be something that you check every day and see where it's up at. It probably isn't even something you can check every month. Maybe yearly is probably the lowest amount you can check it. But if this is something you want to get into and you have no money at the moment to invest monthly, let me quickly run through a few methods that might bring you in a little bit of extra cash. So first of all, just go have a look around on the channel. We've got plenty of methods on this channel about how you can make some quick money online, and the majority of them are long term as well. So you'll be able to see and analyze just how you can get that extra couple hundred a month that you can just put straight into a savings account. Now, if we come over here to Match Betting Blog, this is probably where I'd say you should start, especially if you've never done match betting before. Because if you come to this new customer offers, you can see just off the bat, there's over £1,000 worth of offers available to start with. And I've done the majority of them and they work. So if you come over here and do them offers, that's already there, your initial deposit sorted. You're then going to come over here once you've done all them and go to daily reload offers. And as you can see, there's 90 offers here at the moment for £459 just for today. Now, you don't have to worry too much. It's not going to be that much every day normally. There's not going to be 90 offers to do. We're just at the moment in the middle of Cheltenham, so there is a lot of offers going on. And this is where you'll make the bulk of your money when you do match betting, whenever there's a big event going on. But when there isn't a big event, if we just go back to a random day last Thursday, you can see there was still 60 offers to do, and there was still £212 worth of offers. You can see that even if you just did this one here, that's a guaranteed £12. If you just do 4 of them a week, for every week there is in the month, you can see that's going to be bringing in around about £192. Push it up a little bit more, you've got your £200 monthly deposit there, and you're ready to keep going. Now, if you're someone who doesn't like match betting, there are sites such as user testing. If we come over to that, of course, this time when I come to log in, there's nothing there to do. But if I look at my completed tests, You can see just how much I've made in the past from user testing. I've got 3 pages worth of results there, and I've tried to do this full time before and shown that there is multiple offers you can get. As you can see, one's just popped up there. You'd go on your iPhone, do it, 15 minutes later, you've got your $10. There's also sites such as Prolific, which may not be as good because at the moment I think there is a waiting list for it. But if I get logged in over here, you can just see the variety of surveys that are available. So we've got this one here, that's going to take 60 minutes, you get £8, 5 pence. Spend 2-3 hours doing a mix of all this, and you'll be able to start to see a huge potential return. Now, if you're someone who would prefer to dedicate a bit more time to your work, then you can come over here to Appen, and you can search by all projects and just look at the amount of projects that are available. Sort by the hourly rate if that's something you prefer, and you can see some of these are offering huge amounts per hour, especially if you're fairly adequate with linguistics. So come over here if you want longer term projects. Go to Lionbridge or Telus International, as I think it's now called. There's a huge variety of different sites and methods you can use, and if you don't like any of them, hit the subscribe button, because we're going to be going through a lot of other strategies in the next few weeks and months. But hopefully today I've shown you just how valuable compound interest can be to you in the long term, or maybe in the short term if you've got a big chunk of deposit to be able to keep using. I've also hopefully shown you there, even if you don't want to go down the compound interest route, how you can just make a quick couple hundred extra pounds a month that you can either then deposit into some longer term investing, maybe for your family and friends, or where you can just use that extra couple £100 a month and have a little bit of a laugh and have some fun with it. But hopefully you've enjoyed. Like I said at the start of the video, if you've got any recommendations for methods to try out making money online, please do let me know, and I'll see you next time.